Welcome to TubPreneurs. Super excited this week. We have Joshua LaVack from BoxDrop Mattress and Furniture joining me in the tub. And it's kind of funny. I titled this one, Being Creative Through Uncontrollables.
Right.
And then starting this podcast up today, we had several uncontrollables. So, I mean, it's only appropriate. But welcome, Josh. Glad to have you. If you want to just kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself as we begin.
Sure, yeah. My name is Josh. Like you said, thanks for having me in this unique interview experience. Can't say I've been interviewed a ton or on many podcasts, but this is definitely a memorable one. So, yeah, we came to Traverse City, my wife and I and my family, 3 years ago. Started a business here. Just really on a hope and a prayer, and then some knowledge, you know, and it's been going pretty well, and so yeah, here we are.
So obviously, I mean, you say you started it 3 years ago, and we talk about uncontrollable. So you were a year in, and something happened.
Yeah, there was something out there that happened. So
I don't remember exactly what it was, but
right.
We'll just for the sake, I don't actually know, like. The streams get kind of weird about saying the C word.
Yep.
So we'll say C19.
Yeah, C19. So, we were here in Traverse City a year, just under. And we had this, you know, what we do is we have a mattress business. We started off in 1,100 square feet. Everything was, you know, to keep overhead low, no employees. And then we just clear out inventory. And that's what we still do. We've definitely increased our space due to furniture, but we were in 1,100 square feet, bringing in mattresses, you know, selling 50 to 80% below retail prices, doing good. And then the C19 hit and supply chain issues happened. All of our stuff is really made in the US, but at the time there was some of like the cooling gel that's in mattresses, things like that. They come from other countries, or did. And some of those countries were closed down, so that means we don't have, you know, the things we need to make that. So, and then also we were, we had some mandates that we had to deal around and things like that. So, it was definitely something that was very unexpected. I mean, you know, when you're starting something up, you definitely know that anything that seems too good to be true kind of is in business, right? I mean, we all think that we have that great idea that's just going to take off and we have the energy. But there's always speed bumps. But this was kind of more of like, I would say like, what's something bigger than a speed bump? I don't know.
I guess just a full-on roadblock almost, you know?
Yeah, it was kind of like running into a wall. Nobody knew what to do. There was really no marketing expert that could say, just, you know, put a little money this way or a little money that way.
Well, last time we had a worldwide pandemic.
Yeah,
it didn't happen.
Right. So anyhow, that kind of hit us like I said, like a wall.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you were going through this and you were encountering obviously new business, just getting started, and I want to touch a little bit on the franchising side of that, because I know a lot of the folks that might be listening to this podcast might be interested in that side of it as well.
Yeah.
But as you're kind of like trying to figure all of this stuff out, running into the supply chains, running into the mandates, obviously just being a new business in general, how did your business change and what were some of the ways that you got creative to kind of work through that and not go insane?
Yeah, I would say, so I'll answer that question, but I actually want to go and say this, is that I have learned in my 40 years of life that I'm a creative person, but I don't like reinventing the wheel. Okay? That's just me. And I think success comes from, in some aspects, riding the coattails of what somebody else is doing well. And I just think it's really about the people you bring around you. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean somebody that you have on, you know, hired into your business, but just somebody you're learning from. I mean, there's those, you know, direct people, you and I sharing ideas, and then there's things like podcasts that you can listen to, stuff like that. And so what I started to do is being part of, we actually started off as dealers. I'm technically a dealer, you know, like how how a car dealership would own their lot and things like that. But we are only licensed to purchase through BoxDrop distribution, you know.
Okay.
So, but there is franchising opportunities now. They're growing. They've been for like, I don't know how many years, but they're in the Forbes top 25 fastest growing companies in the country. So it's definitely something to look into if you're interested. Not a lot of startup costs. You know, feel free to get my information, email me, phone call me, whatever. I think there's somewhere around 400 to 500 locations in the U.S. now.
That many, holy
it's really
moly.
popping up. And I mean, so here's the thing: we have one in Cadillac.
Okay.
So it's not something that you have to be nervous. Like if you're close by one within 40 miles, you can still have some success and still, you know, do well with it. But just back to the people around, what I did through that is I realized that we were going through something that very quickly that nobody had prepared. Like you said, like when's the last time we've been in this global pandemic? And so I just started to call around. I started, what are people doing? What, you know, I have some people, I'm well connected with some pastors. What are you guys doing? You know, I was literally trying to find anything and everything to just give me some kind of insight of what direction I could go. Because we were, you know, we're by appointment is really kind of our model. And now you're mandated that you can't open your doors and you have to sanitize. And how can I sanitize 25 bed models? I can't be, you know, replacing a bed all the time. So we got some ideas where we got bed protectors in, and then we would, even if a person didn't buy the mattress, it was a little bit of a cost, but we would give them the bed protector. And that just put customers at ease. You could see it. You know, we let the mask thing happen, you know, if they didn't want to wear one. We were just trying to kind of be customer friendly.
Yep.
And really just say, listen, we understand there's a lot of unknowns out there. We're joining you in that. What are you comfortable with? We did we got some ideas to do video chat with people.
Oh, yeah.
And now that's hard when you're buying a mattress, because I'm a firm believer, do not buy a mattress by just looking online. Don't do it. Come and see me, lay on it, try it, trust me, you'll be happy that you did.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I'm a firm believer in that. And so we would just kind of, we had to get creative and take some risks. So we would say, listen, we just walked through all these. This is kind of the specs you're looking for, this comfort level you're looking for. You know, you're trusting us a little bit. So we're going to put a 45-day sleep trial on it. You know, if you're not satisfied, we'll give you a credit. You can get into something different. So we had to change some things. We had to take some risks that we normally wouldn't have, but it really worked out well. And I can say this, we sold quite a few that way through the videos, for an example, and we didn't have one come back that was like not satisfied. So I think just by being willing to kind of meet a customer in the middle, it kind of puts up like a trust or something, and they're realizing like, you know, okay, this is okay. And
right.
They're not going in alarmed, you know what I mean? Thinking like you're trying to pull something over on them or something, you know? So.
Yeah. And I hope you guys are listening, because there were so many gold nuggets, I think, in what Josh just said, talking about how he got creative, looking for those different ways to still have a customer centric model, but doing it through maybe some different ways that you haven't explored before. And I also want to take you back to what he first started with, which was, don't try to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Like, the reality is, success is built on the success of so many people. If you think about it, if we're constantly trying to reinvent the wheel, we wouldn't have any of the technology or infrastructure that we have today, because we'd just go out and try to, well, you know, I guess that person did it that way. You know, Thomas Edison made the light bulb this way. Mm-hmm. I'm going to try to do it my own way. He already figured out the light bulb. Let's figure out how to get an LED bulb. You know, let's do something different. So a lot of entrepreneurship and a lot of business ownership is building upon paths that have already been traveled and looking for different ways to incorporate them and work them out into your business. Yeah. So you mentioned that you're a dealership model. Mm-hmm. So a lot of folks, you know, as they're looking to start a business, they've seen the franchise route, and they know a little bit about it maybe. But what is the dealership model, and how does that work?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting, and I'm certainly not the legal guy on this, but you know, franchises, they're not bad. I certainly don't want to knock that, because there's a lot of people out there that are looking for a great opportunity. I have a great friend who, by the way, you should get in the hot tub here. He owns the Firehouse Sub here in Traverse City and the one in Gaylord.
Only if he'll bring subs and we can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that'd be kind of interesting in here. A little lettuce floating by.
Really need to. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But anyhow, so franchising can be very successful. I just know that there's in different models or ones you choose, you got to be careful because there's some they look into assets and there's some startup costs there. So the dealership model was really you're kind of risking everything yourself. There wasn't a lot of overhead. It was like buy some inventory, you get the your regular licenses like your tax ID, of course, all that, and then you find a location, you start purchasing from us, you set the price, and you go from there. We don't have MOP pricing on our products, but we kind of try as dealers to stay within a compass because we don't want somebody going to Cadillac and all of a sudden something's $300 less than what I paid for it and they're trying to sell it that, so we're not doing that, but we really have some freedom, but in the dealership model, what you lack, what you gain in a franchise model is a lot of franchises have those royalties, the national advertising. So you might be paying 8, 10, 12% every month, but you're also getting, billboards that you're not paying for, radio, internet, websites, things that are well worth that, 8 to 12%, whatever that might be. So those are things that are my responsibility and as a dealer. Now, our business actually, the company that we purchased from, they actually shifted to, I believe, new dealers, or I'm sorry, new locations would be under a franchise because they started off 22 years ago and they were just a small group of people. So this thing's grown and it's grown rapidly. Well,
yeah, you said almost 500 locations?
Yeah.
Jeez, wow.
Yeah, like I said, Forbes top 25 fastest growing companies. So it's been pretty wild.
So, and as a dealer then, right now at least, I mean, since you kind of got in, I'll say ground level. I know obviously they were probably pretty well established when you got in. But you're kind of now being able to ride on the coattails of the franchising stuff just through sheer happenstance.
Exactly. Yeah. And what's great about that is at least with, we're blessed to be in this company, and they actually have some websites. They do some national advertising, and they're always looking into new technology or how can they compete with some things that are going on out there. So it's not up to me to try to bring in like a smart bed or something.
Okay.
They're out there doing that research, and then they kind of present it to us and say, hey, try this out, field test it at your shop for a few months and see if that's something you want to get into or you don't. I mean, so a lot of that legwork is done, and I could just focus on advertising, purchasing product, selling product, and helping customers.
Okay. So as you were getting started with the dealership model, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced? I mean, obviously we all know C19.
Yep.
A year in, you get hit with that. But prior to that, I mean, even just getting the thing up and running, how did you do that? And what were some things that maybe you could share with the audience that would help them if they're looking at starting a business of some sort?
Well, the biggest thing is, honestly, on the advertising, I consider us, I know we sell mattresses, we sell adjustable bases and furniture, all 50 to 80% off. Come see us.
I love the plug.
But anyhow, we do that, but I consider us an advertising company.
Okay.
So where I really have to lean in is, let's just take 4th of July coming up, or Memorial Day. Let's take that. Memorial Day just happened. And there's not a person watching that, whether they absorbed it consciously or subconsciously, heard a mattress sale going on, right?
Oh, yeah.
And let's face it, every time you hear a mattress commercial, do you ever hear like, hey, come in and we have a $5,000 mattress? Or do you hear, hey, 50% off, 600% off,
right?
Or $600 off this mattress. So what I'm saying is, you get lost in the white noise of all this mattress advertising, and being a local business, small mom and pop shop, even though we're plugged into something larger, we can't afford to keep up with the $25,000 budget a month with Sleep Number or, Prescott, or Tom Brady, promoting beds. Like, we can't do that. I can't call up Tom, even though that'd be pretty sweet, right? If anybody has any connections. But, so we can't compete with that. So what we really have to focus on is the the marketing that's worked well from, the beginning of marketing is word of mouth, networking, and, really living your business and just talking about it all the time, getting excited about it, having your customers get excited. You and I really met through a networking group, but also as a customer. You came in early on, bought a bed, and I was able to, bring it to you, let you know, hey man, if you have a problem, let's deal with this. One of my favorite things, this is going to sound weird, but one of my favorite things is when a customer does have an issue, is being able to take care of that customer, because there's lots of happy customers that'll leave you a review one time, but they're happy, you're out of sight, out of mind, they don't need anything. The customer that maybe has an issue that was out of your control, maybe a sidewall breaks down or just things happen, right?
Yeah.
And you take care of that customer, now it seems like you last in their mind a little more. And then that's when you start to see like, oh, hey, John told us to come in, and next customer, John told us to come in. All of a sudden it's like, whoa. So when you really have that opportunity to take care of somebody, that word of mouth really starts to build. So I always say, there's not, I hate to promote this too much, but like, I really don't say no to customers too often.
Yeah.
Customers are our biggest asset, right? And so if we can keep them happy, I think that's almost priceless.
Absolutely.
It can't be, there's no pride when you're trying to profit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no,
there really isn't.
So. Well, and I think what you said is so important about having that customer-centered model, especially if you're going after word of mouth. And we all know, nowadays more than ever, word of mouth is so important, because word of mouth is not just me going out and telling my friends, but it is me leaving the review. It's hundreds of people leaving reviews, to where if you're not doing right by the people, if you're not doing right and having integrity and following through on what you say you're going to do, people are going to get on. And you're absolutely right. A lot of folks, if they experience an issue, most people are reasonable. Most people, even if it was something in your control, if they're going to come to you and say, hey, here's what happened, and you say, oh, I'm really sorry, I'm going to take care of you, they're going to become advocates for you, not because you never messed up, but because when there was a mistake, you took care of it, you handled it, and they left feeling like they were taken care of. I love how you say that, because it is so true. One good experience is not enough. It might get them to leave a review, but it's not enough to really create an advocate.
Well, it's almost, it's funny, because that's our goal, right? Is to have this good customer experience. And I would think when customers come in, that's an expectation. Like, hey, I don't think anybody goes into a restaurant thinking I'm going to have the worst meal ever, right? But it's when the waitress accidentally spilled something on you, or got your meal wrong, and she comes out or he comes out and they say, you know what, have this dessert on me, or they just go that little bit extra mile. All of a sudden you remember that face, you remember that time, you remember that place, and you're like, you're wanting to go back. You want to experience that again, because we're all human beings. We want to be heard. We don't want to be pushed away. We've all called the cable company, right?
Oh, God.
Like, do you feel valued in that? I don't think so.
I will say, I had a good experience with my cable internet company for this reason. Okay. Now, I will say it took 3 or 4 people to talk to, and I'm a pretty chill guy. I don't get too upset or anything like that, but this particular case, I said, hey, here's what's going on. This is what I was told. This is what I'm now being told. And they were totally different things. And I just said, all I was looking for was like, hey, I've been on the hold for an hour. Can we make it right with a little something, like just a little bit, And they ended up getting me over to somebody who made it right in a big way. I mean, like a huge way. And I was like, holy crap, man, I actually can't complain at all about the cable company, which is not the case for most people, and I understand that. So.
Right. Right. No, that's great.
So that's so true, though, just being able to follow through and actually do the right thing by people. Now, you're 3 years in. And you've had to go through COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm sorry, C-19.
Yep.
I'm not that worried about it, but as it changes now to this post-pandemic world, have there been any lasting changes to your business?
Yeah, I would say that's a really good question, John. I didn't expect that one to come up, but yeah, I would honestly say marketing dollars are a lot more. I don't know if anybody else is experiencing that, but so pre
pandemic,
pandemic, you could really get a lot done for $100 in a week.
Yeah.
And this is no exaggeration. That would be $1,000 now to get that same accomplished.
Wow.
In my world.
Wow.
So when you look at your marketing dollars, that's probably been the last, and I don't see that changing.
Okay.
It's just the whole social media has changed. Certain regulations. There's Google My Business, Google Maps, things like that. All great things, by the way.
Yeah.
And necessary. But just changed. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So, if you don't mind my asking, and you might not know this number, just so you guys know, I didn't preemptively ask him this question, so this is going to be raw. But when you think about marketing dollars, what percentage of gross revenue are you spending on marketing?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I would definitely say, I'd say 25 and higher percent.
25% or more. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you have ways of tracking this, I'm assuming, though. And so that 25% that's going to that, are you seeing pretty good returns on that? And
yeah.
And what are those marketing that you're doing right now?
Yeah,
Radio or television or?
Well, sure. I would say radio and television in what we do. I just really haven't seen it produce. It's high dollar. But I again, it's hard to keep up with those big. You just got to understand your market, right?
Sure.
And so maybe in other areas it would work great, but we'd have done that, radio and things like that. And usually those are like promoting of like veterans, and you kind of get your name, like, hey, BoxDrop's supporting these, and you kind of do that because it's like at least you're kind of bringing it towards the community and catching an ear. We have had sales off that, but. A lot of social media. It's where people are at, Instagram, Facebook, Marketplace, things like that. Craigslist,
Craigslist, really?
Craigslist. People think Craigslist is like this old thing, but if you really look at the searches of Craigslist, it's still in like the top 10 searches on the internet.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And you, again, understanding your market. Maybe you have a younger market of whatever you're doing, and that's not for you. But I would say from 35 to 65 years old, we're getting those demographics through Craigslist. And they're usually a higher dollar customer.
Really?
Marketplace is more what I would call the garage sale buyer, which is totally cool. You're going on there looking for a deal, right?
So you're talking about like Facebook Marketplace then, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, like I wouldn't go to a garage sale and want to pay, $300 for a lawnmower. I'd expect that it's $50.
Yeah, right.
And so that's kind of to me like marketplace there. But we do some business ads, things like that. But so anyhow, Google. We do some guerrilla marketing, meaning like just taking flyers around and hey John, hand out 10 of these business cards. Come in, get a deal for me next time you want a bed. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then a lot of just what's really done well for me is doing that network, showing up at events that people are putting on, letting other business owners, chiropractors for us, bed and breakfast people, renters, people that own, landlords is what I meant to say, sorry.
Yeah.
So there's just all that, having a conversation and yeah.
So what are some of those networks? You've talked a couple times about the word of mouth and the networking and everything. What are some of those networks, and how could a new business getting started go about finding some local networks within their community?
Well, actually, I think I need to kind of look into some new ones too, but I think this is a concept that especially with that, shop local mentality. There's people bringing this up, and what it is it's just, businesses sharing business really, and just supporting one another. You'd be surprised what comes out of that. So, BNI would be one of them.
So that's Business Network International.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
I should say that. Yeah, Business Network International, Chamber of Commerce. I know that gets like a bad deal. A lot of Chamber of Commerce sometimes high dollar, and then you're kind of going and you're sharing your cards, but you just never know who you're running into,
Right.
And I'm not saying that you have to do that year after year, but if you're starting up, and what is it, $700 for the year or something like that. I'm not saying that's little, maybe it's gone up, but those are good investments. You're gonna, but I would also say, put into your investment, like find those people, for me, like I'm looking for realtors, it's like,
Okay.
I want to talk to that guy who's selling homes to new people come to the area that might want a bed,
Yep.
like who do you need to connect with, and try to build that relationship, take that time, extend a hand to them when they need help, but then there's other things. I mean, I would just maybe Google networks, because I know there's, I don't know names of them, but there is a lot of local groups starting that just kind of want to support. Maybe they're having a breakfast together on Thursday mornings, and it's maybe 4, 5, 12 people, and just sharing their business with each other. And
Right.
taking a few
Building
minutes.
those relationships.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
you can't go wrong there with relationship building. You really
Oh,
can't.
amen to that. I want to double click a little bit on something, because I want to make sure that the TubPreneurs really pick up on this. And you shared a lot of great information around the different networks that are out there and how they can go about finding them. But one of the things that I kind of caught when you were talking about was going after realtors. And I think what you're talking about there is kind of people within your power contact sphere, where it's somebody that's essentially talking to your client, right?
Yeah. So let me put it to you this way. When I started this business, I had a coach, and immediately you're thinking, okay, I'm going to go to mom and dad, I'm going to go to my aunt and uncle, and everybody's going to want a bed. But let's just say, I don't know the exact statistic here, but I know that I think the average person knows like 70 people at a time.
Okay.
That they're somewhat connected to.
Yeah.
Okay. Closer friends, even tighter than that.
Sure.
Less than that, right? So what I'm saying is, so you go to mom and dad, you go to aunt and uncle, they buy a bed, then what? Right? Like they spent their money, they're done, they're not, they might share a Facebook post, or they might, tell somebody. That's great networking, but like, where does it go from there? So what I'm looking for is, I want somebody that can help me be a word of mouth that's going to have new clients, repeat clients, like this that can just help me produce, really.
Yep.
And for me, a realtor is great because they're selling homes. It's a natural conversation. I mean, wouldn't it be kind of weird if you're a mechanic, somebody comes in for an oil change, and it's a lady, and you're just like, oh, do you need a new bed? And it's kind of like, what's that all about, right?
So that's an awkward conversation for sure.
There's not really like a natural way to get there. And so, with a realtor, that's hey, just so you guys know, I know a plumber in town, I know a roofer, I know a guy who sells beds. I mean, that's a common thing that you're going to need.
Yeah.
And so we've had great success with realtors referring people.
Oh, I can definitely understand
business
that.
cards, and it's amazing what just a quick, people trust the realtor that they're buying their house from a lot of times. And,
I mean, it's their biggest investment, their biggest purchase of a lifetime is a realtor.
Right.
And yeah, you're absolutely right. They're going to need to put something in there.
Right.
So TubPreneurs, I hope you understand that. Think about your business, the business you're going into. Who are what are the professions that are working with your customers right now that aren't in competition with you, but could be a natural segue to what you're doing? Because that way you're able to build those relationships out. And like Josh talked about, having the relationship with the realtors for him, he's now got people who are constantly talking with his ideal customers. Ideal customers being people who just bought a house, they want furniture, they want mattresses, they want technology, etc. They're going in to an empty box, and they might have some stuff to bring, but you just made $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 investment, and you're going to want to sleep well in that. So
right.
I love that. Now, another thing that you mentioned was that at the beginning you had a coach. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about that experience and how that kind of played into you starting and growing your business.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to what I said from the very beginning. It's that circle of people. I really can't think of much success that I've had in life, not just in business, where it hasn't been that I listened. I'm not saying just had a conversation, but actually heeded to what somebody was telling me, right? And, you know, whether it was my grandpa, my golf swing, and how to like hold my grip, and I was like, okay, well, he knows what he's doing.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you're hitting the ball better, or if it was somebody in business. And so when I started this, there was a gentleman that I actually, the way I got into this is I helped unload a truck full of mattresses, and he had a business like this that was a box drop, and he just kind of, you know, helped me through some of the beginning stages, still is somebody that I talk to. And then as I got into business, I started to build a circle of people. Like I found that guy that was amazing on Facebook, right? And I just asked him everything I possibly could, and found that person that was great on Google and YouTube and you know, those avenues, and then lineup and store presentation, and how do you look like you're clear out but not be super dirty looking, you know, because it's kind of, well, and when we started, you remember this, we literally had a warehouse. You had to drive down an alley. There was no window on the door, and it's like, hey, come in, you know, some crazy guy setting an appointment with you. So it needed to be invited. You had to build that trust immediately,
right?
You know, because it was kind of a weird situation, but you know, it did well for us. Now we have a storefront; it's a little more appealing. But so anyhow, that's really what I'm talking about, and that relationship was just somebody I could ask a simple question to. You know, like even things of like, how do I go about getting this business license? You know, and like, you know, this thing's telling me I got to pay this. Do I really need to? No, you don't. Go this direction. Down to how do I post my first ad? You know, I am a person that, again, I'm not saying don't come up with your own ideas, but if something's going well, I want to ride that wave until it can't be rode anymore. Right. I mean, I'm not always looking now. There's some people that are like steamboating ahead and they're innovators and things like that, but I just think in marketing, there's a lot of what is happening now that you can get on board with and really ride that, and there's so much new stuff coming up that you can kind of just grab onto that, you know, and continue. So I just personally can't wear myself out in trying to invent new ways to go about bringing in business and advertising. Right?
Exactly. And this is so important because I think so many business owners, I was even talking with one this morning, and she was sharing with me, you know, she was a technician, right? If you go back to, I don't know if you ever read the E-Myth Revisited. Yeah. We talked about it on another podcast, but it talks about the technician who has the entrepreneurial seizure and goes into business for themselves. And as I was talking to this business owner, it kind of came up that she's like, well, you know, I'm really good at doing this, but I have no idea how to do the rest of it. And the truth is, having a coach, having somebody that can help you through those processes of figuring out, like, what do I need? Do I need to make an LLC? Do I need to go get a bank account set up? What should I do about a logo? What should I do about a brand? My values, my visions, etc. Being able to figure this stuff out, it's hard. Mm-hmm. And if you're able to grab the coattails, as Josh talked about, and ride those coattails, learn from somebody who's already been there, already done it, you're going to be able to go so much further, because the innovating comes after you had established that firm foundation. And that's where Josh was able to go out through the pandemic and kind of figure out, okay, I've got to change some things up. So I'm going to talk to people about what they're doing, and then I'm going to figure out and innovate what's going to work for my business in that. And that, I think, is more where the innovation comes in, is figuring out how does it work for you, and how does it work for your business?
Yeah. Well, and no, exactly. And it's like, you know, let's just take this, you know, if you're, if you're scared, if you're fearful, which the pandemic did to everybody. If you owned a business, you didn't know what was coming.
Sure.
Right? Are you creative in that moment? Not really. So sometimes it's kind of like, hey, let's just let's get something moving. Let's get something that we know is working, and then you kind of build some of that confidence up, and it's like, okay, we can do this. And then out of that sometimes blossoms some things. Like, for an example, we have a unique business where we'll get people that just literally come through the front door and they'll just say, hey, my house burnt down, can I have some free beds? Well, my wife and I are generous people. We love to give, we really do, and we think that that's important. But I don't want to be the person in my business as a business owner to say, okay, John, you get a free bed, but this next person does. I mean, can you imagine doing that at the front door?
Absolutely.
So that put us in a predicament. But through the confidence of the pandemic and the things that I learned from some coaches and started to be able to develop, what my wife and I did is we said, okay, let's take that off of us and let's find somebody in the community that's doing something where they're giving something like that away, and we're going to let them do the screening process for us.
Oh, yeah.
So we're still giving, and we did that through the sheriff's department with Matt McKinley's like one of the officers that we deal with. And if we have somebody come through the front door, I'll say, you know what, you should call Matt McKinley here, and he'll kind of talk about the situation. It takes the pressure off of me. So that's something that I guess you could say we created, if you will, like a process that we created. But it was through that, confidence. It's something where we're giving. It's not so much about profit building or bringing customers in. But the unique thing about that is we actually did a Christmas deal with him, where it was a Facebook Live. We did some giveaways, and we just kind of did this promotion for his organization. And through that, I want to say we brought in somewhere around $20,000 in sales that we weren't even trying to do.
Right.
Because people just appreciated what we were doing for the community. All right. So that's what I mean by that. When you're scared and you're tense and you don't know what to do, grab onto the things that you can control. Find the people who seem to be kind of navigating that storm. Take heed to what they're saying, and then through you getting more comfortable, you'll have these like ideas. You'll have these things pop up through that. So
Yeah, that's such good information. And one thing I really want you TubPreneurs to pick up on this is the idea of a give back program. Every business, when you take it, the business has to become its own identity. And it should have a driving vision and a driving mission behind it. And part of that should involve your community. There are a lot of people that are in need around us. And it's not, as Josh said, he's in business to make a profit. Mm-hmm. And you have to be profitable because you as a business owner, that's one of your responsibilities is you have to be profitable. That's what's going to keep you in business. That's what's going to continue to allow you to service people. That's what's going to continue to allow you to pay your employees. And if you're not profitable, you're not going to stay in business. Just flat out.
That's it.
But having those ways that you can get creative about giving back. And I love what you said about, hey, we took it off our shoulders of trying to be the pickers and the choosers of, I'm going to be Oprah for you, but I'm not going to be Oprah for you. Yeah. Because if you did that, if you were Oprah to everybody, mm-hmm. you're not going to be profitable. You're not going to be able to work out. So building a partnership, this is a recurring theme. If you guys are listening closely, Josh is talking a lot about partnerships, a lot about other people, and working out those partnerships so that you can move forward in business in a positive way. You can find those ways to give back to the community. And with that partnership that you set up, you're giving back to the neediest of need, or the neediest of us, to be able to provide them with a bed.
Right.
But you're not going broke doing so. So I love that.
Right.
Now, another thing that you did is you started off mattress, and then you moved into furniture. Mm-hmm. And I know when you did that, obviously it brought in new business for you, but it also brought in some new challenges with now you had an employee, you had a bigger space. Tell us a little bit about making that step from being, it's my business with my wife, to, now I've got somebody else who's relying on me to put a roof over their head.
Yeah, right. No, that's a great question too. It's the furniture side of things in my world is still a work in progress because we're still dealing with some of those supply chain issues. But the transition, to be honest with you, it was a lot more natural. I can't remember what show I was watching. I think it was like I don't even know the name of it. I think he's like the prophet, they call him, or something like that, maybe. I can't remember. There's a TV show, and he goes around and he helps these businesses that are failing, and he kind of shows them how to move forward. And I heard him say something a long time ago, and it just stuck with me. But he basically talks about growth, and he's like, I don't expand until I have no choice but to expand, right? And I just like that because I think a lot of times vision's important, right? Ambition is important. I don't think you can really be an entrepreneur without any of that. Risk-taking is important, but we can get carried away with expanding if we're not, careful. And so it should probably be more of like a natural step is what I'm trying to say, not something that you feel like you have to force. I'm not saying that there might not be a little bit of anxiety that comes with that, something, you're taking some of your responsibility off, putting it on somebody else. You're needing to make sure that finances are there for that, bigger space, more expenses coming down, all those things. But I really think expanding should be something that you've grown so much that that's the only option you have, right? Never. If I would think, and I'm being honest with this, if I would have thought, I'm going to get into furniture because that's going to be the cure-all, I would have been dead in the water before I even started.
Yeah.
Because all of our furniture still comes from those countries that have had shutdown issues and things like that. So if that was my answer to move forward from a failing business, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
But if that's my natural step forward, then all of a sudden it's a smoother transition, and these processes kind of come in place around it, if that makes sense, So I don't know if I answered your question, but
yeah, I think that was really good, actually.
It's more of a natural, like, okay, this is what it's grown into,
Well, and this kind of goes back to Grant Cardone talks about the power of broke, right? And it's the idea of any expansion that you have in a business should be fueled and funded by the needs of the business.
Sure.
So therefore, let's say you're looking at a trailer. You don't buy the trailer until you have a need for the trailer.
Right.
And I've seen this over and over with different businesses where they start to experience a little bit of growth. They get excited and they go out and they spend on a lot of stuff in anticipation of where that business is going to go. And it may or may not go there. And I've seen a lot of times where it hasn't went there, and all of a sudden they had to shrink back down, rebuild, and then go back at it again. That idea of building naturally, as Josh is talking about, is so important for you. So as you're building your business, you're going to reach a point where it's going to get too much for you and you're going to need to hire somebody. You're going to reach a point where it's going to get too much for your current space and you're going to need to grow into a new space. But finding those just right sizes, maybe with a little bit of room for growth, but not massive amounts. If you're a small tech startup, for example, maybe you guys can work out of your basement or a coffee shop. And then you get to a point where, okay, hey, there's 5 of us on the team. There's 6 of us on the team. We need to move into a small office. Well, now all of a sudden we grew a little bit more, and now we've got 10, 15 people. We need to go into a bigger office with a little bit of room for expansion, and just doing it in pieces as you're starting to build. And that's going to allow you to handle cash flow a little bit better. And it's also going to allow you to manage some of the other expenses that come with growing teams, and keep you being able to grow naturally through that. So that's so important. When you did come to, how many employees do you have right now?
We actually just have one.
Just one.
Yep.
Okay. So a lot of people are kind of concerned about, like, well, how do I take that step to hire an employee?
Yeah.
How do I know, like, what do I do with that? Like, there's so many questions around that. What kind of help did you get or advice could you give to somebody who's trying to figure out, hey, I think I'm at a spot where I need to hire somebody. What do I do?
Yeah. Well, we knew, I think there's going to be a time for us where there'll be a different, I guess, process and probably somebody else hiring other than me. But in this particular case, we knew that we were going to bring in one or two people. And our business was very personal to us. It was something that we put a lot of time into, and there's certain way we wanted it done. We always want to listen to new ideas, but at the same time, there's, this is how we do it. This is our process. Let's do that. And so we knew that we really didn't want to just get somebody. We wanted somebody that kind of had the same values as us, and that's hard to find, like when you're just interviewing. So we actually were patient. And what's funny is the guy that we hired was actually my son's Pop Warner football coach.
Okay.
And my wife said something to me. She's like, I'm sure he doesn't need it, but you should maybe talk to him about this, And because we just saw how he was with his kids at the practices. We saw that his family was together. And that was important to us. I mean, we just kind of figured like a family that, a guy at least that's like loving his kids and you could see how he was handling it. That's somebody that we could probably trust with our mattresses and the keys to our shop when we're not there. Again, you never know people really, right? How well do you know? But that was just good indicators for us. So I just made a phone call and I said, hey man, I know this is kind of probably like out of left field here or whatever. But here's what I have going on. I'd love you to come down, check out the shop. And I just want to tell you what we do and let you know about an opportunity you might have. And he was open to it, and kind of the rest is history from there,
Absolutely.
So he was kind of excited about the opportunity, and we just went from there.
And this is such good, really good advice when you're looking at this is figure out what are those values that you hold, right? I talk a lot in my business about values and vision. And values are so important because they allow us to look at a potential employee and go, is this person going to be someone who's going to uphold our values? And what Josh is talking about is really good too, because he's looking at people who are already in the circle that are those people that you look at and you go, man, I really like this person. They hold to some of the same values that I hold to, I find important. And then just having that conversation, and that can be a natural progression, especially in the early stages of your business, of being able to have those personal relationships and being able to grow through that. As you think about the future, I mean, what are some of the plans that you have? What's the end-all, be-all vision that you have for BoxDrop here in Traverse City or beyond that you're looking to kind of put into shape for you and your family and the business?
Yeah. Well, my kids are young, 12 years old and younger. But I would really love to leave them something that they have at least the option to work it. I think, this is a whole other podcast, but I just think, that you can learn so much in a family-owned business. You really can. I mean, it's just, there's so much there, and it's a good opportunity. So I'd love to see that. We love this community. So I want to do more to pour into that. And in what areas do I see that happening? I guess I would say I'm not 100% sure yet.
Sure.
But we definitely want to be community builders. But that's really it, man. I mean, I kind of been telling, I'm only 40 years old. I mean, I say only because I really don't think that's old, and I don't want to make it sound like I don't have dreams. I do. But I kind of feel like I just want to be the wind in my kids' sails and the people around me. I want to, I still have so much to learn, but I really just want to encourage people along and help them move forward. And I honestly think as you do that, it opens up doors for you.
Absolutely.
So relationships and listening has been such a big part of my growth, not only in business, but in life. I just want to give that back. So yeah, I mean, I don't see BoxDrop being something where I want to sell it next year to make a quick dollar and move somewhere. I want this to be a long-term thing. I'm not excited about the last 18 months and the struggles that have come with it, but I'm glad that it's a part of our story. And when we have that, 10-year down the road, thinking back, it's like, man, remember when we made it through that, and there's kind of a little bit of pride that comes with that,
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, good question, really good question. These are things that we should be thinking about, but yeah, it's just something I want my kids to have an opportunity to say, hey, Dad, this is something I want to do.
So I hope you guys picked up on everything that Josh just talked about there, and I really want to highlight relationships and listening. Relationships and listening. As you're building a business, are you building relationships? You should be. Mm-hmm. And relationships not just with customers, but relationships with other businesses that you can get around, learn from, and really try to come together in a positive way and help each other. And that has been a recurring theme with Josh through his business and trying to help people. I can tell you, as a customer of Josh's, I've bought 4 or 5 mattresses from Josh. I bought my couch from Josh. And one of the things that I've noticed is he is very good at relationships. He's very good at listening to those needs and looking for those different things. And I really appreciate that you've taken the time out to come and sit in the tub with me and enjoy this. Kind of on a last question, I always love to ask, what is somebody who's getting started in a business or considering getting started in a business, what is one book recommendation that you might give as they're trying to learn from the shoulders of giants, or stand on the shoulders of giants, so to speak?
Yeah. Well, there's many, but I would say, you learn to read and then you read to learn. So amen. Keep reading, and I think anybody, most people that are successful and will say that they are readers. So that's one thing. But I would say, now this is going to be a kind of a unique one, but I would say The High Impact Leader by Carrie Newhof. And the reason I say it's unique is because for those of you that might not know who Carrie Newhof is, he's actually an ex-pastor. He has a leadership podcast, and his High Impact Leader is from the perspective of a small church pastor that grew something. But hear me out on this. The reason that I say that it's a good book is what the High Impact Leader is really about is how to manage your time, energy, and priorities. I would guarantee anybody watching this podcast, you yourself, have been absolutely overdone with time management. I don't want to take another time management course. I don't want to read another time management book. I don't want, we all know we need to schedule, we need to plan our time. But what Carrie does in his book is he actually has you kind of go through this process of where you are tracking your week and you're finding where your energy's at. For example, I am actually early in the morning from like 5 until 9 is my absolute best energy. I'm my most creative. And that's when I want to write. That's when I have ideas come to me. That's when I better have a notepad around, or that's when I should probably think of my next slogan or my next advertising. If it's 2 in the afternoon, you're probably going to find me on the couch if I'm not working or whatever, because I go in like zombie mode. My mind's not working, and this is what I found out for myself. So a lot of times we kind of find that through that process is that, man, we can actually like schedule our energy and put maybe what we were trying to do in 8 hours can be done in 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And not just time managing, but because you have this passion and excitement, you're more alert. And I just thought that was really important. It was impactful to me. And then he helps you prioritize your day through that. So I don't want people to think, number one, that it's, when they look it up, that it's just for pastors. It's not. It's a great book. It's an easy read. And there's also a course that goes with it with like 8 videos. So very, very easy to kind of comprehend and put into practice. And then I also don't want people to think that it's only a time management. It's not. It actually is more about this self-awareness of where my energy is, so you can be more creative and you can have more success with your time and energy.
That is so important, and I agree. We've all read the time management books.
Oh, yeah.
We all have 1,440 minutes in the day
Yeah.
that we allocate somewhere. But what you're talking about is so important. And if I hadn't learned this, like I want to read this book, High Impact
Leader, Carrie Newhof.
High Impact Leader, Carrie Newhof. It's going to go in the Amazon basket. Because one of the things that I found is when I started to understand where my best energy came from, my most creative energy, I was the same way. It's like I could take what would normally take me a few hours to do, and I could condense it down into a 30-40 minute focus session on that, and then I'd find another time or whatnot. And getting those spots where you are most creative and you know what's going on, you're able to function at a totally different level. And as a leader, as an entrepreneur, I think it's safe to say everybody's trying to get a little bit of your time.
Right.
And you almost feel like you never have enough time. But if you can get really good at what Josh talked about with figuring out where are those times that I'm most productive in this task and doing those things, then you're going to be able to free up so much other time that you can use working in the business and whatnot. So find those times that you're most creative and use those times to work on your business. Josh, I really appreciate it. I'm so glad we were able to make this work.
Me too,
and so much great information. Next week, we're going to have Nick Bittinger. I hope I'm saying his last name right. If not, he's going to correct me next week. But Nick has built Bittinger Asphalt and has learned how to systematize. He's grown a business to a point where he's kind of out of the business, able to pursue his true passion. And he's going to be sharing a little bit with us about how to systematize and how he went from starting it off to actually building the systems where he can step away. I hope you guys join us. Thank you again, Josh. This has been great. Before we forget, though, did you have any sort of offer or anything that you wanted to offer to the TubPreneur listeners if they're local here?
Yeah. So I know for me, it's more local if you're local. But yeah, if you see this, mention this video, come on in. If you're looking for an adjustable base mattress combo, we'll take $100 off there. That's a great deal. We already have those at 50% below what they retail for. So that's definitely something to look at. If you're looking for anything, luxury mattress only, we'll take $100 off. Mid-range and lower, we'll take 10% off. So just come in, mention this video, and we'll take care of you.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. And again, if you guys want to join us in the after party, we'll be on Bali. Josh will be available, and we can kind of do an AMA, Ask Me Anything, and he'll answer that when he has time. And appreciate it. Look forward to having you guys on next week. Take care.
Thanks.